All right. Hi, everyone. So, starting with our first session, which is difference between decentralized finance, that's DeFi, centralized finance, CeFi, and traditional finance. We have Ashish Suvarna, who is the India head of business development and support team for FTX Exchange. A brief about Ashish is that he's been before he got into the crypto industry. He was a part of the IT industry in India, working there. He handles the India side operations and BD for FTX Exchange and is also handling the community for Project SERUM. Over to you, Ashish.
Thanks, Manav. Thanks for the introduction. I have been working with FTX and I joined the crypto space, I think early 2017, mid 2017. And I've been in the crypto space ever since and it has been pretty good to me. Right, so I'll start with my talk. Let me share my screen first. Okay. I'm not sure. Manav, is my screen visible?
Yes, yeah, no, your screen is not. Yes, it's visible now.
It's visible now, I suppose. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So basically, today we're going to talk about traditional finance versus centralized finance versus decentralized finance. This is basically just a general introduction to the whole, to how the whole, what is the difference between the three ecosystems, and where could we be going in the future, right? So starting with centralized finance. So finance, as we know it, has been around like for hundreds of years, right? The very first instance of finance, you could say, was basically the use of barter system to exchange goods with each other, and using over time using other currencies like gold or silver to basically exchange goods, right? And in the very basic, when suppose if you had an asset like gold or silver, and you wanted liquid assets to buy something, buy a property or start a business, but you don't want to sell your jewelry or stuff like that. So what would you do is you would go to a money lender or a pawn broker basically, and they would collateralize your loans in return for the assets that you keep with them. So basically, in the olden times, they were just peer-to-peer collateralized loans. So you gave them basically 10 grams of gold, and they'll give you liquid cash, whatever cash that was in that period, to start a business or buy some property or stuff like that, right? Eventually, when centralized banks came, there was no need of basically peer-to-peer lending. Centralized banks took the ownership and they guaranteed the return of funds. So somewhere down the line, peer-to-peer loans started to trickle out. They're still in the ecosystem, but not as prominent as centralized institutions. There's still a side market for peer-to-peer loans, but it is not as big as centralized institutions, you could say. So basically, traditional finance is the brick and mortar institutions that we see every day, like banks and any business that has a physical marketplace where you can go in and take out a loan or something like that. So if you probably have taken out a loan in your life, maybe a car loan or a vehicle loan, you'll probably know that it is quite hectic. You have to go through a lot of paperwork. The settlement is long, and you'll probably have to go through the whole process for a couple of weeks, right? And in scenarios like this, I mean, even though you are eligible for the loan, what matters is the amount of time you have to spend trying to get that loan, right? So this is something that is lacking in the current ecosystem. As of now, like, we have products in place where you can swipe a credit card and get buy an iPhone for like and convert it to EMI right away. But even then, if you want to take out a loan for a large amount, say $1 million loan, nobody is going to grant you a loan without collateral, right? And your credit score matters as well. So if you do not have a good enough credit score, even though if you give them collateral, they might not give out a loan because they probably won't be able to recover that, right? And even as of today, we do have great innovation happening in the traditional finance space. Like, we have UPI right now, which works pretty well for normal day-to-day uses. But I'm sure most of you who have tried using UPI, I have also experienced the fact that sometimes when you need it the most, the transactions do not go through. Right. I personally have this experience where I wanted to send a friend some funds, and it did not go through, and I had to wait for like 4 to 5 business days for the whole thing to settle. Even in today's day, when I have to wait for 5 business days for the funds to settle, it does not make sense to me, at least not to me. So yeah, so this is basically a general idea of what traditional finance is. There are pretty big markets in this space. We have the stock markets, we have the money markets. There's a lot of going on, lot of things going on in this space, but this is like just an overview of what is happening here. Right? So moving on to the next step of finance, which is basically coming on to crypto. So now we were looking about fiat currencies, and now we're coming on to crypto, where we see how centralized crypto exchanges work. Right. So this is more or less similar to how centralized traditional finance works, but it is kind of an upgrade. So when you transfer funds from one bank to other, say from ICICI to HDFC on your fiat banking network, it goes through their own central network of central ledger basically. So you do not have any control over, I mean the banks have total control over what they want to enter, right? But here this is an upgrade to traditional finance. So take any two cryptocurrency, centralized cryptocurrency exchanges basically. If you take FTX and Binance, for example. So if you're transferring, if you're sending funds from sending BTC from FTX to Binance, it will happen on the Bitcoin blockchain in a decentralized manner. So the settlement here is completely decentralized. Also, most crypto exchanges charge you a tiny fee, but a quick plug here, like FTX does not charge any fees for withdrawals. So if you'd like to withdraw any funds from FTX, FTX pays the blockchain fees, for example. So suppose you withdraw like 100,000 satoshis from FTX to Binance. These satoshis will hit the blockchain, will hit the Bitcoin blockchain. There will be gas fees paid, which FTX will pay, and then it will be credited to your Binance account directly. So the settlement process here is decentralized and happens on the Bitcoin blockchain, right? But there are certain drawbacks here because I'm sure most of you have heard of the phrase "not your keys, not your Bitcoin." So that is essentially correct because there is you need to have a trust on a centralized party like a centralized exchange like FTX or Binance if you are storing your funds with them. So this has dependencies and has bottlenecks where if something happens to the centralized exchange, your funds are stuck. So that is basically what could happen here. But exchanges have safeties in place so such that such occurrences do not happen, right? And there have been a lot of centralized exchange hacks and have been cases where people are not able to withdraw their funds. These are one of the cons of centralized exchanges. But as somebody new who's coming onto crypto, if a person like a layman who wants to know about cryptocurrencies wants to buy some Bitcoin and keep, he does not want the hassle of storing his private keys somewhere safe. And then suppose if he has one Bitcoin as an investment and he loses the private keys, basically he has lost all his funds. There is no possible way to recover it if you lose your private key. So in this scenario where users are not sure about themselves, if they're able to keep them safe, keep the keys safe, this is a good alternative because exchange basically guarantees you that your funds are safe with us. So this is basically for newer customers who are looking to get some exposure to crypto but are not looking to undertake the whole risk. This is a good option, right? Centralized exchanges guarantee their funds and they do not have to worry about storing their private keys or losing them. Also, centralized exchanges have insurance funds which help in case of hacks or any other thing that happens to the exchange. They are basically insured. Now, the insurance is very less to be seen on the DeFi space because it is more like the wild west. Like it's a fairly new field and people are just seeing 10,000% APYs and putting their money in DeFi. So there's still a lot of maturity to happen in this field, and we'll see how, and we'll explore DeFi next. So what is happening in the DeFi space? So In the first example, we saw that the very basis of money lending was based on a peer-to-peer rule. So you gave some collateral. You gave, suppose you had gold, you pawned your gold and you got some cash in return. So this is what basically happening here in decentralized finance. If you go to any borrow lending portal on DeFi, you have some ETH, you want some USD, you basically over collateralize your ETH. So if you are, for example, now it has been a good couple of days for Bitcoin, which has been rallying quite well. So if you have some Bitcoin at 10,000 and you are in urgent need of cash, but do not want to sell your Bitcoin because you're sure that it is going to rally in the next couple of days. So what do? You keep your Bitcoin in you lend your you collateralize your Bitcoin and borrow some funds. So if you have $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, you get $8,500 of cash and you give away your Bitcoin. Basically, you keep it as collateral. So you own the one Bitcoin that you have at $10,000, and you also have an additional 8,500 that you can do whatever you want with, right? Now in this scenario, basically in this particular scenario where Bitcoin has gone from 10,000 to 15,000, you are in a good amount of profit, and you do not have to worry about liquidation in this particular scenario. But if the price of Bitcoin went lower than 10,500 and closer to 8,500, you'd probably have to return the funds back as soon as possible, right? But in this particular scenario, you would be pretty happy because you control $18,500 worth of assets, and you made a good amount of money in that process as well, right? And in DeFi, basically, you control your keys, so you do not have to worry about hacks as such, because you are the sole owner of your private keys, and you can do whatever you want with them, basically, right? And it is a lot more open than traditional finance. There is no central authority as such. You can start your own protocol tomorrow if you want, provided you have the technical know-how of doing that. And anybody in the world with an internet connection can access it. So all you need is a computer, an internet connection, and some crypto, right? And as of right now, I think over the last year, compared to Jan 2020 till date, there have been billions of dollars logged in DeFi. So the world is taking notice of DeFi and realizing that this could be something that traditional finance could potentially, challenge traditional finance. Whereas mainstream institutions are also looking into DeFi and seeing what is happening here. Why are people locking billions of dollars in internet money, basically magic internet money, right? So there's a lot of potential here, and we are seeing a lot of interest where people are locking funds in they're locking funds in automated market makers, in liquidity pools. They're yield farming and gaining a good amount of returns annually. Basically, these inflated returns that you see on the internet, where people are making, I'm sure most of you all have seen memes where people make $10,000, $30,000 APY, 37% APY in a single day. Sorry. So yeah, there has been a lot of interest in DeFi, and one of the pros is that anybody can participate. You do not need special permission, and you do not have to wait for a long amount of time to participate here. So all you need is internet, some crypto, and basically access to how the crypto industry works. So one of the cons here is that if somebody new is, if you tell your friends who are not into crypto that, okay, I'm yield farming this coin that just came up on CoinGecko, they'll probably stare at you and see what are you saying. So there is a slight barrier to entry where people must know how crypto works, how Bitcoin, how Ethereum, how the blockchain works, how to do a transaction over the blockchain. So that is some technical know-how is required. Plus, as of right now, most of the DeFi ecosystem is on Ethereum. So Ethereum, as of now, layer 1 Ethereum is slow and it is quite expensive as well. So if you want to say transfer $50 or $10 worth of Ethereum to a liquidity pool, you'd probably have to pay $2 in fees, $1 or $2. There was a point where fees reached $30 as well. I personally have paid $30 in gas fees in Ethereum to do a transaction for to do $100 transaction. So I cannot argue that it is not slow. It is slow and it's quite expensive. There have been solutions like Ethereum Layer 2, which are proposed to launch soon, and they're probably going to address most of these issues. But this is something that we at Project SERUM are trying to tackle, right? So the inherent for DeFi to scale, it has to be fast and it has to be cheap. So this is where Project SERUM comes into the picture. Let me go back. So Project SERUM is basically built on Solana. Most of DeFi applications that you see today are built on Ethereum, which I mentioned earlier is a good platform, is most famous and used by most of the developers out there, but it is not scalable in its current state. Maybe there will be maybe Ethereum 2 will address, layer 2 will address it, or there could be certain side chains. There are a lot of side chains in the market right now that could solve this problem. But this is something that we are also trying to solve based on a layer 1 Solana blockchain, right? So this blockchain is extremely fast and extremely cheap. There are like 400 millisecond block time and less than 1 cent, like $0.001 per transaction. So this is what has enabled us to create a completely on-chain order book and completely on-chain trading. And there are certain DEXs which offer decentralized trading, but there are very less exchanges that offer a completely full-length central limit order book. So let me show an example. So this is the Project SERUM website, and this is how the DEX looks like. So basically, all of these orders that you see are all on-chain. None of, like, if you see 1.15 an offer at 1.15 for 700 SERUM, this is also on-chain. So to connect my wallet, I just click on connect. A solid pop-up will show up. I just enter my password and I'm good to go. So now I'm connected to the whole DEX and I can trade if I want. I think I have some SOL, but I'm not going to trade now. And yeah, so all of this that you see is completely on-chain. All these orders are on-chain. The market trades happen on-chain. And if you want to basically make your own GUI, make your own graphical user interface, you can build on top of the Solana blockchain, on top of SERUM, and you can earn fees from that. So if you are a UI developer or if you are an engineer who wants to build on top of SERUM, you can do that and route orders through the DEX. So anybody will be able to. I see that somebody cannot hear. Can you hear me? Manav, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. I think you'll probably have to refresh. So after you refresh, you'll probably be able to hear.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So after that, right? So as I mentioned earlier, all of this is completely on-chain. Like the DEX, if you have used Uniswap or any other platform that lets you swap between cryptocurrencies, we also have SERUM Swap. So this is more or less similar to Uniswap, where you can swap any currency that you have. I have not collected my wallet here. Let me quickly connect and show how this whole thing works. Okay, so I have 0.13 SOL. I can convert it into USDC if I want, and I can swap it right away. So these are two different platforms that are built on SERUM. So the first example that you saw is a completely on-chain DEX. You can see the orders on the book which are on-chain, and this is an automated market maker where you'll not see the order book, but you'll be able to ask for quotes and the liquidity pools that are there. For example, in the Solana USDC liquidity pool, there is about $200,000 worth of lock liquidity. So if I change this to Serum, you'll probably see, okay, $600,000 of lock liquidity here. So I'll be able to trade across, against the liquidity pool and swap my tokens as I want. Right. So this is Serum swap, and as of right now, there's a lot of volume on Serum and about $10 million worth of total locked value on the Serum swap, right? And if you want to build on Serum, like Serum is completely open, anybody can come in and build on Serum. If you want, if you have an interesting use case on Serum, like if you want to create a chat application on the blockchain, if you want to create an instant messenger on the blockchain, you can come in, pitch your proposal to us, and we award something called as Eco Serum grants. So we have awarded these guys a bunch of grants. We have Bonfida, Coin98. All of these are innovating basically on top of the Solana and Serum blockchain, and they're basically improving the product and growing as a community. So we have all of these grants granted so far, and we have a lot of projects in the work as well. So if you see, Serum launched mid this year, and there has been a lot of development in this space so far. So we're currently in phase 3 of the project. We have launched yield farming, we have launched AMMs, we'll soon launch on-chain staking as well. And there have been a lot of integrations on the whole product front. We have partnered with a lot of exchanges, with Binance, with Bitmax, with FTX, and OKX. You can find all of this on the website projectserum.com. And if as a community, if you want to learn how Solana works, how Serum works, if you would like to develop on Solana or Serum, we have a website called Serum Academy. So you can explore this and you can find all of the resources that you need. As I mentioned earlier, everything is on chain and everything is open for all. Anybody from any corner of the world can come in and pitch in and contribute and whatever you want to do, right? So we have a bunch of project ideas that are already being worked upon and where you could also start working on. We have AMM bots using pools, I think, which is already being worked upon. We have a messaging application as well, where we have a bounty of 25,000 locked SRM. If you want to create an instant messenger over Solana, over Serum, basically like a WhatsApp on Serum, where all messages are encrypted and go through the blockchain, that would be something really cool, I personally think. So yeah, so the whole point of Serum is to create a ecosystem that is fast, that is cheap, and that is growing together. So if you see the idea behind Project SERUM, right, the seed investors who have contributed, the funds that we raised in the private sale are completely locked for a period of 7 years. Now 7 years in cryptocurrencies, in blockchain, is a pretty long duration. People like Binance and Ethereum is also not 7 years old. So you'll probably understand that how long-term the vision of this project is. And this is backed by some of the most known names in the industry. If you see people from Compound, Alameda Research, FTX, Tomo, CMS, Bitmax, everybody is working with us on this. And me, myself, as a part of the community, is working to take Serum ahead in the whole DeFi space. So yeah, I am open for questions if anybody has any. I think this is what I wanted to say so far, basically on traditional finance, CeFi versus DeFi.
Thank you, Ashish. Any questions for Ashish? Guys, you can write on the chat or you can write in the questions tab. Anything?
Yep, 7. So the idea was that, is Solana. Okay, so as of right now, I think Solana has about 130 validators, but over time, this is bound to grow because Ethereum, I'm not going to argue Ethereum is much more decentralized, but over time Solana is also like we already have 130 odd validators. I'm not entirely sure about the number, but yeah. So yeah, like I was saying, Seven has committed something that the core team wanted to push in, because that shows that the people that are working on the project are in it for the long run, are not here to make a quick buck. They're here because they believe in the project, because they know that okay, this is something that is going to change things in the DeFi space.
All right, Ashish, there's another question, which is like, please talk about the risk factor due to pandemic.
I'm not entirely sure about the risk factor in DeFi. If anything, I think more people, due to the pandemic, they are trading more, they are at home more, and are using more DeFi. Maybe that is one of the reasons we have seen the lock value in the DeFi space increasing. Basically, from Jan to current, there have been billions. From I think Uniswap alone saw an increase from 10 to 15 million, from 10 to 15 million to $1 billion, more than $1 billion. So yeah, I think that is something that has been a good point on the So the DEX is on layer one. It is layer one DEX. So Solana is a layer one blockchain, and it is an entirely different blockchain, unlike layer two on Ethereum or a sidechain. This is not a sidechain. This is a layer one blockchain.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Ashish. Anyone else has any questions for Ashish? So, all right, perfect. Thank you, Ashish, for such interesting insights in DeFi, CeFi, and the difference between traditional finance. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.